"Teacher, look, what magnificent masonry, what wonderful buildings." And Jesus replied to him, "Take a good look at these monumental buildings. You may be sure not one stone will be left on top of another. Every last one will certainly be knocked down. Be on guard. Stay alert, for you never know what time it is. It's like a person who takes a trip and puts workers in charge, each with a task, and enjoins the doorkeeper to be alert. Therefore, stay alert, for you never know when the landlord returns. Maybe at dusk, or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or maybe early in the morning. He may return suddenly and find you asleep." It's the gospel of the Lord, and together we say,
"Praise to you, O Christ."
Let us pray. Most loving God, your mercy is from everlasting to everlasting. Please enable us to so trust you, that grounded in you we may live with serene trust. May we look at change and chance without dismay, seeing in every moment the opportunity for the exercise of resilient faith and tenacious love. Through Jesus Christ, the bringer of the new heaven and new earth. Amen. Lilith. Come on up. How you doing?
Good.
Is coffee here all right?
Yes.
Yep.
We just need to finish it when we go back down.
Great. Well, in the worship today, we had one of the readings is called a psalm. Because of the P, ends with S, A-L-M. Not like a palm, like a thing you hold it, palm sended, but a psalm. It's a song. A psalm is a song. Does that sound confusing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, in the psalm for today, if the pastor can find it, it's not a big bulletin, right? It starts off, can you read that? What's that say? Right there. New song to the Lord. And it goes on because God has done marvelous things. So it's like, be happy. When you're happy, do you hum or you sing something?
When I'm happy, I sometimes dance and sometimes sing a song.
So if you're dancing, you probably have a little tune going on in your head, right?
And then I sing it
And there you have it. And there you have it. So what we hear is that when you're thankful for things, you kind of get a little bit musical. And what the writer here, King David, is saying, sing to God when you're happy, because God gives you all the good things that you have. There's actually a song in our hymnal. If you guys want to turn to 822. 822. You might want to look at it with me. Okay. Now, I've had a little bit of a cold today, so my voice is starting to waver. But a lot of you have heard this one before. It's called "Oh Sing to the Lord." There we go. Preacher in our next. That is awesome. Want to have a prayer for you? Well, God, we thank you for the ways in which you come to us. Help us to be willing to let you in so that you can stir us to joy. So we might do a little dance here and there. We might rub off some happiness and joy on other people. So that more people might open their hearts to you. and let you fill them up. We pray these things in your name. We say, Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and we say together, Amen. So you all know that I'm kind of a car and truck guy, and it's probably now 1998 when what our girls used to refer to as Mr. Bumpy came into our lives in the household. Parents starting to recall Mr. Bumpy. I used to be heavily into Chevrolet stuff, and now I've flipped into Pontiacs. But back in the day, I had my Chevy trucks. And so the last small Chevy truck that I had, by the time Karen and I got married, died. I had a little S10 with a plow on it, a Fisher. I had tuned the heck out of it to get as much performance out of that little 2.8 V6 that I could. Alan's thinking, like, how can you get much performance out of a 2.8? Well, I recurved the distributor and set it up so the thing was really pumping at more advanced than it needed. And we were moving a pastor into Zion. We were taking the new call down in Oxford. This is when I was a musician down there, and Karen was working the office as well down there at the time. So a bunch of us had our trucks full of their furniture, moving them from Rhode Island up on the Oxford mats. And you know 146 where you come up into Sunday, you get that big hill before you come up to Purgatory, right? So we're all blitzing up that hill. At least I was blitzing, I thought, with the X10. When I get to the level at the top of it, the trucks are going, and it never quite ran right again. I spent some time trying to figure out what it was, and I gave up, and I sold it off the front lawn. Some guy was thrilled to pick it up for a plow and parts, and there I'm looking at the next fall, and I'm thinking, like, something's going to have to happen. Well, it turns out that what became Mr. Bumpy, I had seen for years. This guy had taken the 68 half-ton Chevy four-wheel drive pickup truck. He lifted it with big mudder tires on it and had it painted up as a nice dark green color. And then he used it for a long time and he parked it. The farm wasn't too far from Bose where I worked. So I saw it with a big for sale sign on it. I'm thinking, like, that's it. That'll be the truck for me. Now, you know how sometimes we focus on things to the exclusion of others? How many times have we done that? Yeah, sometimes we think that some things are more important than others. We spend some time on it. So I thought it was really important for me to get a third in the line of big Chevy trucks for myself. So I paid the price for it. You'll see why that's a joke in a second. Karen dropped me off. I had the plates, put the plates on. Bose was like 2.5 miles away, the parking lot. Fired the truck up, ready to go. I made it 90% of the way to work, and it died on the hill approach to the mountain. So AAA came and we had it towed home, and I worked on it. And I got the truck running, and it ran pretty well. I did some work on it. One of my buddies at Zion, Oxford, who did a lot of mechanical work, I bought an old truck with a plow. He went and pulled it off for a couple of cases of beer or whatever it was, and put it on the new truck for me. I was ready to go. So I got through the first winter, no problems. Did some more work the next summer on it, got into the second winter, basically no problems. But then it started sputtering out towards the end, and I knew I was going to have to work on it during the summer. And sometimes we put time and effort into things, and we think that we should keep doing that. Well, our middle daughter didn't think that insurance was really important to have in full coverage on her car back in the day, and she had a little bit of an accident and wiped out the front of her car. And no money to buy a new one. So I stepped in and rebuilt the front of her car over the summer, which is when I was planning to rebuild the truck over the summer. So by the time I got the car done, and she's sailing off to do her things with full insurance coverage now on this car, it was too late in the fall to do anything more with Mr. Bumpy. And so Mr. Bumpy wound up going to the scrap. Which, if that were today, it wouldn't, because a 68 Chevy pickup truck is highly prized because of the cab style and all of those things. So today, it would be sitting in the yard, and Karen would be bemoaning it was sitting in the yard. The point is that we need to understand where there's a balance on things, don't we? So we don't put all our eggs in one basket and just go to the exclusion of everything else. Now, God wants us to have fun in life. God wants us to have hobbies and enjoy life. Life is meant to be one of abundance and not scarcity. But there needs to be a balance with things. So we're not shorting ourselves out by just thinking we have to go I understood that that truck needed to take a hike, even though I really liked it, but I let it go. Coming to the gospel for today, you'll see this same gospel text, a little bit different wording, a different setup and mood as well, where Jesus is in the holy city back in the day with the disciples. Now you got to remember that these guys grew up outside of the city. So whenever they came into the city, it was a marvelous sight because there were bigger structures than they ever saw in their villages. And the temple, even though it had been rebuilt at least a couple of times, is still this huge edifice that just blew everybody's minds. Those of you that saw some of the pictures from my Holy Land trip, you saw what just the Wailing Wall, what the western wall that's left of the mound, just the mound that the temple went on, how big that is. That thing is huge with massive blocks of stone that were cut out and stacked up. But on top of that mound is where the temple was. And these guys are walking around the temple complex after having gone up the steps to get up there. So they had to go up a ways to get there. And they're looking at how big this is. And they're just saying, wow, look at this. This is so wonderful. And Jesus is thinking about how they're putting their stock in the things that people can do in building these things and how they're going to be around forever. And that's why he has to say to them, no, these blocks are going to be thrown down at some point. He's pointing them away from putting their stock in what humans can figure to turning to God and letting that be the focus. That's something I think we all should take to heart at times in our lives, right? Because there are all kinds of ways in which we get used to certain things, and sometimes things need to change. The winds of change. The Scorpions sing about that. That's one of the rock bands that I listen to that's left over from my youth. Winds of Change. And that Winds of Change song speaks about the changes that were going through Europe back when the Berlin Wall fell down, right? When I was taken down once and for all so East and West Germany could be united. Winds of change, where the political environment and the understanding of humanity shifted to be more inclusive. But we can be singular at times. Do not look for change. We've talked before at the Reformation, right? That the reformation of the church happens in about 500-year cycles. And so after Jesus was ascended and the church went on for a while, there were different councils that met over the first few hundred years and tried to understand who the church was, how it should be in Jesus' name. And there were a whole bunch of changes that took place in that first formation that caused a schism and a break. So we had the Western church kind of take off and what became the Eastern church right. And so that was the first change. And the people who were in Egypt, the Coptic church, they remained on their own. And I had basically like three understandings of Christianity and following Jesus at that time. And each 500 years since then, there's been a shift within the gathering of people who say they follow Jesus' way, and other things take place. At Martin Luther's time, things had become very singular within the Roman understanding. And there were things that were going on that became unhealthy for the church and needed to shift. And so the Spirit worked through Martin in order to bring about change then. And there is a whole grouping of theologians today who tell us that the last Reformation started around Y2K, year 2000. There's a shift within the understanding of people who call themselves Jesus followers, the way church looks and feels. And of course, a lot of communities have felt that shift. Zion has felt it. Bethel has felt it. Every congregation within our Central Mass Conference across the country has felt it. Where there's been a shift in our communities away from church as the center of what everybody is doing and thinking and being. So many other activities are available. Stores are open 7 days a week. When I was a kid, blue laws were in effect. And there's no way you did anything on a Sunday except go to church. In the case of my dad, he'd go to McDonald's for lunch because he had to go to the hospital to visit people, right? But you didn't do a lot on Sunday. You didn't go to the movies. You didn't go out to Macy's. You didn't go and do all that kind of stuff. But there has been a shift. But one thing that we see is constant, and that Jesus is trying to show us in that gospel discussion for today, is that when we put our trust in God, that no matter what happens, even when the blocks of the temple or whatever is important for us get thrown down, that God is going to lead us through to the other side. that there will be winds of change and shift that do go on. And people do move forward, and the Spirit leads us into new understandings all the time. As we head into this end part of the liturgical year, because we're almost at the end of what we call Cycle C within the Revised Common Lectionary Cycle, we're getting ready for the Advent. We're looking ahead to the Incarnation. And in the last days of the liturgical year, there's a lot of themes that come up that are what some people call apocalyptic, like the end of the world, what's going to happen, when is Jesus going to come back, and all of that. When, if you want to think about the text and what some of the writers were trying to get at, we're told that there are going to be end times at some point. But I think more rightly understood, if we think about where we are and how we let the world sometimes think that things are apocalyptic, but how God leads us forward anyway, I think that's a more rational way of looking at things. So that even when it looks like things can be thrown down and we become used to, but there's a new way forward. That God's in the mix and helping us come to a new place. God is certainly in the mix within our Central Mass Conference with the way in which our congregations are being led. We have vital leadership in the congregations around our area. Emmanuel Holden has Pastor Wilfred retiring next September, but they've already got another pastor who's come on to learn the ropes, and things are moving and shifting at Emmanuel in some new ways. Pastor Nathan People is down at Trinity Lutheran, and there are new things that are happening down there. They have a full-time youth and family director, who's one of my colleagues who goes on the mission trips with us. There's a whole new look and feel for what Trinity is about. It's not quite what it was back in the day. We have a dynamic new younger pastor up at the Lutheran Church in Fitchburg, and things are going well there. The congregations come back together and gel. And with our congregations of Bethel and Zion, we have the combination of two groups of people who work together for the good of God. Both campuses are open, and we have outreach that is happening. And we have things that are about to happen with the Grace Cafe. God is at work making new things out of what were. Not everything stays the same, but things shift. If we let the Spirit move us to new ways of being in our personal lives too, we can move from one thing to another. From one joy into a new joy. Because God, at heart, is working to love us into those things which are best for the world and for ourselves. So let's not be afraid when stones seem like they might come falling down. As Christ says, be alert, be on guard, because you never know when the Spirit's going to move you to something new and open your hearts for something that you need to be about. That's true for every one of us, pastors included, that we be open to what God has to say.